In our recent financial crime and compliance ranking, we highlighted Cleareye as one of the ones to watch, and also highlighted Cleareye as a standout in one of the key emerging areas within financial crime, namely trade finance and trade-based money laundering. I'm pleased to be joined by Mariya George, CEO and co-founder of Cleareye. Hi, Mariya. And we're going to talk about trade-based money laundering today.
Hi, Nick. Good to be here.
Great. So, first of all, how is trade-based money laundering evolving in this world of socioeconomic and geopolitical unrest?
The trade-based money laundering continues to be a pervasive threat that's undermining our global financial stability. And I was reading somewhere that recently, it's up to 80%. It may account for up to 80% of illicit financial flow, and that trade-based money laundering, TBML, fuels organized crime, and it even weakens the rule of the law, right? So these kind of problems get really exaggerated in a world of a geopolitical unrest, as you can imagine. And just to give a few examples here, right? So geopolitical unrest it create vulnerabilities in trade systems. Like, for example, it will create shortage of goods. It will create disruption in supply chain. And criminals usually can exploit these vulnerabilities to launder money. And that we've seen this again and again in many scenarios. And a typical use case for trade-based money laundering in that scenario is criminals usually do over-invoicing or under-invoicing of goods. They may even ship counterfeit goods. So that's one example. Another practical example that we saw earlier last year was the challenges with the crisis at the Suez Canal. So what happened there when the ships were rerouted and the ships were taking longer time to transporting times, which resulted in increased costs, which resulted in higher product prices. Now, every company is trying to save on costs, and this introduced challenges when they had to cut corners and they were not focusing on the regulatory or the compliance checks, which also gave an opportunity for fraudulent activities. So, the impact of geopolitical or the changing socioeconomic situations is huge on trade-based money laundering, and it's creating more and opportunities for criminals, unfortunately.
Yes, absolutely. And actually, you can only just call on some of the recent examples that we've seen in geopolitics and actually COVID as well, in that disruption of supply chains, to just see how big the impact can be on global economies. So interestingly enough, I worked at a trade finance department at a major bank about 15 years ago. And it's somewhat surprising to me that a lot of things haven't changed in this time in terms of the way that trade finance risk is handled. How are financial institutions adopting to solving these challenges and also meeting regulatory demands, and I should say increasing regulatory demands?
The good news is that in the last, if you compare to what it was 15 years back, a lot is changing. I don't think we have reached where we want to be. However, because of the technology shifts that we have seen in the last 5 to 10 years, FIs have realized that they have to make some significant shifts here. And the irony of it is, like, criminals are much more sophisticated sometimes. They figure out ways to launder money in a more efficient way, unfortunately, than the FIs can quickly adopt. So to answer your question, right, I would categorize that into three categories, three sections. Number one, I think FIs are realizing that they need to collaborate better. So collaboration is one. The technology aspect I talked about is two. And the third one is data sharing platforms. Let me go a little deeper into each of those, right? So when I say collaboration, it's collaboration across different industry domains, different verticals. So working together with regulatory bodies, working together with law enforcement agencies and other stakeholders to share information, intelligence, and best practices. And FIs have to take a major role here, because end of the day, they are the ones getting penalized for any kind of money laundering activities. The regulators are coming at them. So that's one collaboration that FIs have taken very seriously. We are seeing that across when we talk to banks, our prospects, customers, it's a very important aspect for them. Also, as part of that, they are spending a lot of time sending their professionals, compliance professionals, attending this conferences, industry associations, so they can share information. That knowledge sharing is also happening much better these days. The second aspect of it, technology. This is something very interesting, right? Fascinating in the last couple of years how things have changed. Advanced AI, machine learning. Now we're talking about Gen AI, large language models. They have played a big role in how we can effectively manage trade-based money laundering. And FIs have realized this. They are saying that they're realizing the need for automation to prevent trade-based money laundering, and most of them have started looking or have already implemented some kind of tool or product to do the risk assessments, to bring in automation versus depending on humans to do it manually. So that's the second point. And the third point I mentioned is the data sharing platforms. This is an interesting one because we would love to have something where you can share real-time information between governments, financial institutions, and other stakeholders. I know it sounds very easy, but there are very practical challenges associated with it. I think it's in its nascent stages, but I've again seen FIs taking this up as a priority and exploring ways to do it.
Yes, I think data sharing presents a huge opportunity in this space in particular. And I'm really hopeful that I think that we've seen a bit of a shift towards the kind of finding practical solutions. So hopefully that will follow. One very interesting point you made, and it's kind of on top of everyone's mind at the moment, but is AI, of course, artificial intelligence. So how can technology, and especially AI, enhance the detection of prevention of trade-based money laundering in financial institutions in particular?
That's a great question. And I think, trade finance and especially trade-based money laundering is an area where AI can really help. And the reason why I say that, I think it's important to talk about the reason why it's there and then what are the potential solutions, right? The reason is because AI is disrupting across all different domains, verticals, anywhere. But trade finance especially, it's very high volumes. It's still very paper heavy. It's very complex. So that itself brings in additional complexities. It's still, we talk about promissory notes that looks the same like they were centuries back. So unfortunately, that's the way it is now, right? And it's in a paper format versus maybe in a tablet, but still it's a promissory note. So that's one. And the traditional methods of looking for, anomalies, for example, searching for certain filters, keywords, keyword filters, etc., it's not really working well. And then the third point is the lack of standardized data and information sharing. So those are the real challenges in the trade finance space, right? And because of these reasons, AI or like the new advancements in AI, especially large language models, is perfect for solving these problems. So let me tell you why I say that, right? If you think about large language models, it can analyze vast volumes of data, including trade finance documents, which is very complex and very different, right? It can analyze emails, it can analyze social media communications. Now, once LLMs are trained on historical data and regulatory red flags, it can analyze new transactions and identify anomalies that could indicate potential money laundering activities. So, for example, again, right? So LLM may flag inconsistencies between declared value of goods, their typical market price, and the parties involved in a transaction. So it's not possible without analyzing all the historical data and putting a baseline. So that's a very good use case for LLMs and how it can help the specific problem. Another area where these technology advancements can help big time is it's on the network analysis or entity resolution. So what I mean by that is there are so many parties involved in a trade transaction. So understanding the complex relationship between these companies, these individuals, these buyers, sellers, their different geographies. So if we were to analyze that, then it is easier to identify potential suspicious activity based on the anomalies that are happening. So that's another brilliant use case where the new advancements in AI is helping. Now, going back to some of the traditional AI things, right? Machine learning and natural language processing. The entire document review and verification that's happening with trade finance, it's again a complex area. A lot of companies have been trying to solve this, but it's a challenge even today because of the complexity of the variances. Every geography has its own set of documents, etc. So that's another use case where the traditional AI, machine learning, natural language processing can be applied. And then the fourth one I can think about is scenario planning and risk assessment. So what I mean by that is if you can simulate different trade-based money laundering scenarios and assess the risk associated with specific, let's say, trade routes, companies, or type of goods, again, FIs can prioritize, or corporations can prioritize their resources and channel their limited resources to focus on those kind of activities. So AI can definitely help make things much more efficient in this area. Then again, I don't think we are there yet where a bank can completely rely on an AI. It's just making it more efficient, and then they can reroute their resources to focus on the right things.
That's a great point, because I think, and you gave some really practical examples of actually where to use large language models. Perhaps there are areas where one shouldn't. So it's such a vast space, trade finance and trade-based money laundering, and like you say, it can't be. We can't boil the ocean. So, could you tell us a little bit more about Cleareye and what Cleareye's role is, and also how do you ensure that your solutions and your approach remains adaptable in what is a very quickly changing landscape and actually field?
Yeah, absolutely. So Cleareye is an advanced AI platform that focuses on, we focus on unstructured data processing. That's how it started. So what I mean by that is we have the ability to process any kind of unstructured data. In this case, we're talking about trade documents, and convert into a very structured format. That's where it starts. And ClearTrade is the product from Cleareye that focuses on trade finance, operations, and compliance automation. So what does ClearTrade do, right? At a very high level, it can do four things. Number one, it starts with digitization, because that's a foundation for everything. You digitize the documents coming in, digitize the LCs, collections, guarantees that we get in the trade finance space, and we convert that unstructured data into a structured format. Once that is done, that information is sent for compliance, trade-based money laundering checks. It's sent for sanction screening checks. So what do we do there is we've automated that process. So the FIs using the product has the ability to just, look for all the nouns, all the proper nouns related to a trade transaction. Are these nouns sanctioned entities? So when you send it for sanction screening, and if the trade has to be stopped at some point because there are sanctioned entities in the trade and it has to be highlighted, ClearTrade will automatically highlight it, saying that these are the nouns that are sanctioned, and it makes the process of sanction screening much more efficient. So that's one. On the second part of what we do in the compliance and trade-based money laundering is ClearTrade focuses on, it has the ability to do all kind of vessel checks. So when as part of a trade, is the vessel going through, what ports is it going to? Is it going through ports that are sanctioned? Is the vessel itself sanctioned? So vessel tracking, container tracking. So you have the ability to track each container on a vessel. Bill of lading tracking is another capability. And then we also have the capability to check for dual use goods. Does a trade have, military dual use goods or any high risk goods in it? So all these processes are automated. So instead of a person trying to do these checks manually, going through pages and pages of paper documents, it's all automated and brings in significant efficiencies. So a bank has the ability for the compliance team or operations team to get it done in maybe a fraction of the time it would have taken for them to do it manually. And also, because it's all automated, there is full auditability. And when an FI has to submit answer to a regulator why they think this happened, it's much easier for them because the process is very highly documented and for them to support it. So that's a little bit about what Cleareye and ClearTrade does. And to your question on how do we how do you stay on top of this ever-changing regulatory environment, right? We are in a unique position because of our strategic alliance with JP Morgan. And what I mean by that is JP Morgan is known for its high standards adhering to regulatory needs. And our strategic alliance helps us make sure that Clear Trade is on top of the regulatory changes. And the product is used globally by JP Morgan and ensures that it's top of the class. So that also helps us make sure that not only what we are doing, we are continuously scouting for what's happening, but our customers, other customers also, the way we work with our customers and partners is that anytime there is a change, we are very quick to make that change into production. So that helps us be on top of the game.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Mariya. Lots of very practical advice, lots of very thought-provoking ideas. So really appreciate your time, and thank you for sharing your knowledge with us today.
Thank you for the opportunity, Nick.